Well, good afternoon. It's been a while since I've been with you. I usually try to wait for the Lord to kind of give me a little poke and say, this needs to be said. And that's what happened today. I've been kind of praying about it over the last few days. And today I was doing my own study. And about halfway through it, I just felt led to come on here and just kind of give you an update on some things and hopefully share something that will be an encouragement to you. The first thing I wanted to do was to kind of give you an update on the Bible study. I made a few suggestions to you last time as to how to study the Bible. And I did some things and took my own advice. And I got myself a notebook because I wanted to be able to stick papers in there. And I finished my comparison of all four gospels. I don't think you can see that very well, but basically I had showed you the form and I went through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I listed every event and put them into categories. And then when I was done, I put them in plastic sleeves at the front here. And then I had sections in the back for each one. I went ahead to that Bible site that I told you about, and I made those copies and put those in there along with any study notes. So I felt really good about that. And then I got done, and then I thought, well, now what? So I went online myself and I started researching how to do Bible study and things like that, hoping to get some things to pass on to you. But honestly, I think I entered a beehive of activity. And so I wanted to start today by kind of giving you a couple cautions of things that I learned as I was looking at different people and how they did Bible study. For years, my daughter and I owned a shop up in North Carolina, and we did craft supplies and we did party goods for children's parties. And we did a lot of crafting and sending things out. And we shipped all over the world. And we had an Etsy shop that was quite successful for a number of years. So I'm a crafter and I love to do things like that. But what I noticed when I was going through the things online looking for Bible studies is I was coming across a lot of people who should be crafters, because basically what they were doing was they were doing scrapbooking within their Bibles. And I saw them where people had taken their Bible and they had actually had sticky notes all down the side, and they had things that came out and they had color coordinated things and they had flip charts and everything else. And I watched quite a few of those videos trying to figure them out. And all I realized that for me, that would be a danger zone, because I could get so involved in the setup of how pretty my Bible was going to be that I didn't have any time left to actually get into the Word. The other thing I noticed as I went through there is it almost seemed to be a prideful thing, that people would hold up their Bibles with 18 different colors of markers on here and little sticky notes and pull out tabs and everything. And they would show it as if, oh, look at me, look at all I've done and how much I've been in the Bible. And that didn't seem like it was real to me either. So I decided for me, I'm going to continue to do what I have been doing, which is to take my pencil with my eraser to go through. I do make notes in the margins. I do underline things, and then I take notes in my notebook. Right now, I'm going through Deuteronomy. I'm on Deuteronomy 10, and I'm taking notes as I go. And then I'm going to put those notes somewhere. But right now, the first 5 books of the Torah are in that notebook. And for me, that works. So you need to find something for you that works. But I guess my caution is, don't be caught up in the color and the organization so much that you lose what it is you're trying to do. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get into the Word and get the Word inside of you. And if you want to pretty it up later, that's great. But right now, just spend your time in the Word. When I finished with these 4 studies, I kind of looked at it like, okay, where do I want to concentrate next? And I had written some things down as I had gone through these books as to, oh, study this or study that. But I prayed about it and I decided I'm just going to keep going with Deuteronomy. And then I'm going to go into Joshua and Judges and just keep going that way because I'm working my way through this. It's taken me a couple months to do it, but I'm learning so much. And then I'm going to add things in other places. Like I wanted to study a couple passages in Luke. I wanted to study about the remnant and how the remnant has been preserved throughout the ages and how God, Yahweh, has basically always had that remnant since the very beginning to make sure that his people will survive. Another thing that really interested me was what happens to that remnant at the end and as we go through into the millennium and into the 1,000 years right there. And I just, that kind of fascinated me that that's how the world will be populated. And when I saw that, the bigger picture of how God's got this all tied together, that was something I wanted to study. So if you're confused about where to go next, just write those things that fascinate you and that you think about on a piece of paper, and one by one, go ahead and look at them. The other thing I did was I invested in a Bible dictionary because I spend a lot of time Googling things and pulling them up on my phone. But I did do the research on what was a good Bible dictionary with pictures and maps because one of the things I wanted to do was to study some of the places. I'm really into the history of the Bible. That's always been probably my first love is history of the Bible, not overall. And so I wanted to be able to research some of those cities and towns that they said and the route that was taken through the wilderness and how they looped around and everything. So that's supposed to be delivered today. So I'm kind of excited about that. Back in the day, when I was studying in college and when I was a pastor, I had shelves full of all different kinds of books. But of course, we didn't have the access that we do now online. So I wanted to get this one book, but I doubt very much if I'm going to buy a set of commentaries or anything like that after this. The only other thing I might do is I might buy something that's like a Hebrew um, definitions type book. So anyway, so that's kind of what I've been doing. And today, as I was reading the word, something really popped off the pages to me that I wanted to share with you today. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10. And I'm going to be reading Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12. And it says, and Deuteronomy is so rich. I kind of suffered my way through Numbers because that's exactly what it was Numbers, and it was hard. But I got into Deuteronomy. I just felt like I had gone into fertile ground. It is so rich with the words. And Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12, it says, and now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require from you? But to fear and worship the Lord your God with awe-filled reverence and profound respect. To walk, that is, to live each and every day in all of his ways and to love him and to serve the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, your choices, your thoughts, and your whole being. And to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I am commanding for you today for your good. So that in itself could be a study that could take you a week to go through. And I wanted to point out a few things that have come to my attention that maybe would just kind of get your whistle wet. So the first thing I wanted to show you was in verse 12. It says, but to fear and worship the Lord. The word fear there is really a word that shouldn't be there because we are not to fear the Lord. What it means when it says to fear the Lord, it means to have a profound effect or respect for. It's to put him first in things and to understand that he is the ultimate for our decisions and our lifestyle. So we look to that and they say fear and we think, oh, we got to be afraid of God. And that's not what that is saying at all. It's saying to have that respect for him. The second thing I want you to see there is that the word commandments. We hear a lot about the commandments, the 10 commandments. And again, that's an English translation, but The word should not be commandments because God has given us free will. And a commandment means you will do this. It's like when you join the army and they command you to do so many sit-ups or to line up a certain way or to march a certain way or carry your gun a certain way. Those are commandments that are given to you that you need to do, and you don't question those at all. When the word commandment was put here, we all just thought, oh, these are the things of God. What it means there is these are God's loving instructions. These are his precepts. These are the things that are his codes of wisdom. These are what he's telling us. Do these things and it will go well with you. Do these things and I will be pleased with you. But he's not commanding us to do them. They're not commandments because he gives us free will. And so we choose to do them. We choose to obey his loving instructions, his precepts, his codes of wisdom for us because he wants the best for us. So that was just another thing that I kind of caught along the way. So I wanted to kind of break this down just to give you a little idea of what this is saying. And basically it comes down to three things. That what does it mean to worship the Lord? What does it mean to be able to do that? It's not about singing or dancing or speaking in tongues or doing any of that stuff. What does it mean to worship God? What does it mean to put him first? And basically, this is telling us, it's telling us to walk in the narrow way. The narrow way. And that means that we are going to have a lonely walk because most of the world is not on the narrow way or on the narrow path. They are on the wide path that leads to destruction. In the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 13, it says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad and easy to travel is the path that leads the way to destruction and eternal loss. And there are many who enter into it. But small is the gate, and narrow and difficult to travel is the path that leads the way to everlasting life. And there are few who find it. There are fewer still who walk it, and there are even fewer that stay on that narrow way, that narrow path. Because each and every decision that you make has to be a decision that you're making along with Yahweh, along with the Lord, to choose that narrow way, to choose his loving instructions for you. It's not a one and done. You don't read the 10 Commandments and think, well, I got that done. I didn't steal anything today. No, it's a continual walk. And part of that walking is a forward process in just acknowledging him in every step. A few weeks ago, we learned about the armor of God, and it said to put on the gospel of peace on our feet and to walk. Psalms tells us that he gives us lamps to our feet and a light unto our path because we are walking. And I will be honest with you, this world is getting dark. The news is not good, and it's getting darker and darker around us. And the only thing you're going to be able to do to stay on that narrow way is to stay in the word and on the path that he has set before you. And it ain't easy. It is hard because there's a world that's going the other way. And each and every decision you make, you have to put up against the word of God. And you have to ask yourself, is it of him? Is it right for me? And is it going to do me harm? And there are some things that look very, very innocent. I had mentioned once about getting my nails done. I got my nails done religiously every 10 days. But as I look now, it was not good for me. Excuse me. Because it took a lot of money. It was like $45 every time I got my nails done. And the Lord said, you don't need to do that anymore. And that was something that the world would look at and go, well, what's the big deal? You're getting your nails done. And that's true. But for me, it didn't work anymore. So you have to put every decision that you make up against that plumb line that I told you about. And you have to walk on that narrow way and you have to continue. Put on those shoes, the gospel, that every step you take is going to be in line with the word of the gospel of peace, that you would walk in peace, that your perfect peace would come because your mind is stayed upon him. The second thing that that verse tells us is that we are to love and serve him with all of ourselves. That's really hard because sometimes we don't want to be about all about him. Sometimes we want to be about us. But every time we make it about us for any reason, we get on that place where it's kind of like putting on a set of ice skates and you get out on that ice and you're slipping around and you're sliding around and the devil knows it. So if you're not concentrating on him and you're not having his thoughts in your mind all the time, every day, you are going to be on that slippery slope. You are going to be in a place where Satan knows your weaknesses and he will feed into those weaknesses. I'm going to share something personal that happened with me. And it sounds like a dumb story, but deal with it. Every morning I walk my dog. I live in a mobile home park. And I usually go all the way down the block and around the block, and then I come back. Well, at the end of the block, there lives a man who is construction worker, very good looking construction. Well, when my roof leaked, he fixed the roof for the owner because I rent here. And so we got to talking and we got to be friends. And every morning I would go down and I would walk the dog and he was getting ready and getting in his truck and going to work and we would sit and chat. Now he lives with a woman. And so we were talking and I didn't think anything of it because I'm being nice, I'm being friendly. And over time, he started getting more friendly. And so he made the comment to me about how good looking I was. And of course, I kind of thought, well, that was nice because I don't have a lot of people in my life. So to have someone that I could talk with every morning, it was kind of nice. And then he told me I was good looking. And then one day he said, if I wasn't living with Linda, I would be all over you. And I kind of said, oh, okay. And I walked away and I thought, that doesn't sound real good. But I'm going to let it go because there's nothing going on here. And there isn't anything going on here. And then about a week later, excuse me, my hair is getting in my way. He said, you know, we've got to, Linda and I go out for dinner every Thursday night at the Mexican place. You know, maybe you could come with us sometime. And I thought, oh, that's nice. Same thing. Didn't think anything of it. Then about a week later, he said, come here, I got to give you a hug. You're just such a nice lady. And I said, okay. And I gave him a hug. That led to every morning we were talking and then he would give me a hug before he went to work. I do apologize. I don't redo these. So this is it. So then, you know, this went on and it started to kind of bother me because I was starting to develop feelings for him. I knew it would never go anywhere because in my mind, it was not going to go anywhere. But I could feel myself looking forward to seeing him, looking forward to those hugs, looking forward to him telling me all these wonderful things. And I got home one night and I got into bed and I just got a conviction from the Lord. And it was kind of like he said, what are you doing? And I kind of tried to justify it. Well, he's just a friend. He's just a roofer and we're not doing anything and I'm not going to do anything. And he said, you are giving an opening to the enemy. Stop. And I could barely sleep that night because my number one priority is to be one with my Lord. And I was so distraught. I was distraught because I knew I was going to lose a friend. And I was distraught because I didn't want to do anything to upset the Lord. So I got up the next morning and I texted him. And I said, I need to pull back. I said, these texts, because he would often text me late at night and say, you know, have a good evening. You know, again, I was just chalking it up to there's nothing going on. And I said, these texts and hugs and morning talks have got to stop. I said, it's not healthy. It's not good for you with your relationship with Linda, and it's not healthy for me. So I'm going to choose a different time to walk the dog. And I wish you well. And I felt a real loss. I really did. I felt like I lost a friend. And that was 2 weeks ago. And I still feel the loss because it was, he was a very nice man who honestly had just paid attention to me and was friendly. But I knew I had to make a choice. Now, was I going the broad way where had I just forgotten the Lord and just like gone my own way? No. But what I had done was I opened the door just enough that I had put on those ice skates and was kind of slipping my way through the ice. And I knew that Satan, it was only a matter of time before something would happen that would make my walk compromised with the Lord. Now, I know myself well enough to know I wouldn't have had an affair with him, but even the things that I was doing were not comfortable for me with my relationship with the Lord because he is my betrothed. And I'm not going to do anything that's going to take away from him. So I've only seen him once or twice since then, and it's just a hello, and I keep going. And he does his best to ignore me, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I'm using that example and making myself vulnerable because I want you to see that it doesn't start with big flashy lights. It doesn't start with us making a decision. I remember when I was a kid and there was a commercial on TV, and it was this pretty ballerina dancing across the stage. And then she just fell onto the ground in this big slump of a pile. And the commercial said, "No one sets out to be a drug addict." And I never forgot that because it's true. You want to be a ballerina, but nobody sets out to be a drug addict. Nobody sets out to be a sinner. Nobody sets out to displease the Lord. But we do it when we allow ourselves to get into situations where the enemy can take advantage of us. So we need to love the Lord, and we need to have every decision that we make and every choice that we make and every move that we make be in concert with the word, because the devil is sneaking around and he's sly. And he knew with me, I don't have a lot of people in my life, and that's okay most of the time. But he knew I was vulnerable in that area, and that's where he wanted to hit. The third thing is to guard his word. Not only to guard the word, but to guard your time with the word, because it will get away from you. There are always things to do. There are always things that need to be done. And we can put it up, well, I'm just going to do this and then I'll get to it this afternoon. And I'm just going to do this and I'm going to get to it. No. Make sure that every day you're in the word. Make it a priority. Make it a hobby. Remember when I said that? I am making it a hobby. I am getting my notebooks. I am getting my books that will supplement. I am reading things. I am studying to show myself approved, because I want to be counted worthy by him. I want to look at this verse. What does he require? That I worship him with awe-filled reverence. Any kinds of reverence is not going to go toward anyone else but my Father. Profound respect. I kept thinking about it with the guy down the street when I was wrestling with that, and I thought, what would I have done if I had been married and it was my husband that was doing that, and how it would have injured me, even for a supposedly mindless conversation and quick hug. But if Ken had done that to me, it would have shattered my heart. And I have to realize that I am betrothed to the Lord, and I do not want to do anything that would hurt his heart. And to love him, it says, with your choices, with your thoughts, with your whole being. It takes work to think about him all day long, because it has to be at the forefront of your mind. And sometimes I'll just say, Lord, I love you. That's all I say, because I really don't have a lot to talk about prayer wise, but I'm love you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for loving me. Thank you that I slept well last night. Thank you for protecting me over the night. Thank you for waking me up refreshed. And we just continue that spirit of worship with him every day, because as we get that, he washes us, he cleanses us, and he helps us to be able to continue on that narrow way. I sometimes look at the world and think, I feel like I'm in one of those squeeze chutes that they use for the horses. You know what I'm talking about? When they put them in there, they put the horses in there because they can't control them unless they're in there. That's what the Lord's doing with us. That narrow way is a squeeze chute, and he gets us in there, and then he teaches us in there. And we need to be realizing that there's going to be pressure built on both sides as he is funneling us and pushing us along the way he wants us to go. We're on that narrow way for a reason, because we're his, because he has claimed us. He has chosen us. We are his. We are marked. We have his name on our forehead. So this was not as much about a Bible lesson, how to. It was more like a here it is kind of thing, and a lesson that I'm learning. So I'm going to go back and finish up chapter 10 today and chapter 11, because I try to do 2 chapters a day. And then I'm going to look forward to getting my book, and I'm going to supplement what I've learned today by looking up things in the Bible dictionary to supplement what I've learned. And I'm going to walk my dog at a different time of the day. And I'm going to make sure that I don't put ice skates on, because it takes me to slippery slopes. I'm going to make sure that the gospel of peace is firmly in my shoes, that I'm walking the right way, that every step I take is ordained by the Lord. I would encourage you to make God a hobby. Make him something that is your number one on a list of one. He is the ultimate for your life, for your choices, for everything that you do. He is number one. You ask him, you check in with him. I had an instance where they wanted me to pick up a couple of other tutoring kids, and it pays a lot more than one of the tutoring kids I have now. And part of me wanted to drop the one I have now because the other money was so good. And I've been praying about it since yesterday, and I know what the Lord is telling me now. He has helped me to make a decision, but it wasn't a decision based on this is correct and this is incorrect, or these are the pluses and these are the minuses. It was, Lord, I'm putting this choice before you, and I'm asking you to help me to make the right choice, because he ultimately is our provider. So you need to practice doing that in everything you do. You need to practice bringing all things before him, talking to him right out loud. I laid it out before him. This is the pros, these are the cons. What do you think? And then I waited for his direction. That's what it means to be on that narrow path, being squeezed in that chute and not moving until he says, here is your direction. I hope that this has blessed you today. It blessed me just to see it written in the word here, how rich these words are. No matter how many times I read them, I am blessed with new thoughts. I pray that you will have a good day. I pray that you will continue in your Bible study. Don't get discouraged. You can't go wrong when you're in the word. You pray, and then you read, and you meditate, and then you pray again. Be blessed. Have a great week.